Good evening, everyone, and happy National Preparedness Month. I am Mariah Katayev, and I am the Community Engagement Specialist here at the Department of Emergency Management and Security, or DEMS, as we now call it. And tonight we are going to be going over a couple of things that we have planned for September and a couple of things that make September so important. First off, we're going to start with some ground rules. The goal of this workshop is to increase awareness of meaningful actions Fairfax County residents can take themselves to prepare for, respond to, and recover from emergencies and increase their individual resilience to all types of threats and hazards. These are the kinds of things we're going to be going over tonight. Module 1 is National Preparedness Month, which happens every September. Module 2 is the See Something, Say Something campaign, which is through the Department of Homeland Security. That also takes place in September. And Module 3 is an emergency preparedness survey that there will be a QR code that I will be displaying towards the end of this event. And if everyone could just consider taking a couple seconds to scan that and fill that out, we would be much appreciated. Module 1, National Preparedness Month. So first, let's start off with what is National Preparedness Month? How did it come to be? How did it come to exist today? And why does it still exist? So the first time National Preparedness Month came to be was in 2004 as a way to remember the events of September 11, 2001, and to highlight the importance of being prepared to the whole nation, and to highlight the importance of these tragic events do happen, and individual preparedness does make a huge difference. When a large event that is super unfortunate, like September 11th, takes place, first responders and resources get spread really, really thin, and it makes a huge difference when people have the capability to be what I call your own first responder. The theme through the Federal Emergency Management Association Subcommittee, Ready.gov, this year is a lasting legacy. The life you've built is worth protecting. Prepare for disasters to create a lasting legacy for you and your family. So this theme was created by Ready.gov, and the hashtags that they have this year are hashtag lasting legacy, hashtag NPM 2022, which stands for National Preparedness Month 2022, and hashtag Be Ready. We have a lot of things going on this National Preparedness Month. For DEMS, September is the busiest month because we do a lot of outreach, we do a lot of community events, whether in person or we have a lot of virtual opportunities this year. We have divided National Preparedness Month into 5 different weeks and topics that people can get involved with preparing for within their home and outside of the home. Week 1 is make an emergency plan, start it. Week 2 is practice your plan. Week 3 is assemble your emergency kits. Week 4 is staying informed during an emergency. And week 5 is how to get involved. So part of week 1 in making an emergency plan, we have our great mascot, Stormy. And he is there to kind of bring to light how emergency preparedness is something that can be family friendly. It is something that can be all ages involved, and that can really, really help make emergencies less scary to young ones and them still be able to learn the things so that, God forbid that an emergency does happen, they will have a little more muscle memory for the event. An emergency plan starts with the family getting together and having a family meeting. And during that time, you can discuss with your family the most concerning hazards and what actions you were likely to take for each disaster. So, for example, you could discuss with your family what would you do during a tornado watch and a tornado warning, or a thunderstorm watch and a thunderstorm warning. Going clockwise, reading the graph, you would determine whether to shelter in place or evacuate and where you will meet up if needed. You could also discuss what it means to shelter in place and what it means to evacuate. discuss how you will communicate if you are separated, and identify an out-of-area contact in case local communication lines are not usable. That last one is really important, like how we discussed how National Preparedness Month was made in respect to September 11, 2001. During that day, most phone lines were unable to be used just because of how busy they became. And we still can see that in large emergencies to this day. So sometimes it can be really, really helpful to have an out-of-area contact where the bandwidth is not being used up to the same amount, to the same percentage, and it might be easier to get a call through. And this is one of my favorite images. Everyone needs an emergency plan, whether you are a family, an individual, or a business. On our website, we actually have material that can help with all three of those kinds of plans. Under Make an Emergency Plan, you will see that we have family plans, we have individual plans, and then we have some business-related plans through our Business Disaster Resilience Guide. All three groups are equally important, but all three groups have something a little different, so planning for them can be a little different. And these are the cover images of those plans I was talking about. Going from left to right, we see the Fairfax County Community Emergency Response Guide, which has everything from preparedness, response, recovery, and has things to be catered to adults, children, and those with access and functional needs. So there's a lot of individual things within the Community Emergency Response Guide, or the CERG as we call it. The Business Disaster Resilience Guide is catered only to businesses, but it is still a fantastic read, and it is one of our newer projects that we completed. The Prepare, Respond, Recover that you're seeing is our Kids Community Emergency Response Guide, or the Kids CERG as we like to call it. That is aimed towards about a 4th grade level, as it follows the Fairfax County Public Schools curriculum, which talks about environmental hazards during 4th grade science class. And then the Everyone Has a Role Community Emergency Response Guide is for the older groups that are still under 18. So it's a lot less coloring, and it's a lot more word-based, word searches, fill in the blanks, and it's definitely for the older kids. Week 2 is when we get into practicing your plan. And practicing your plan does not have to be as scary as it sounds. One of my favorite ideas for practicing your plan is sort of visualized in the image that you see. If you live in a home and you have 2 children, it's important to have multiple escape routes in any home, but you could practice your escape routes by having each child go through one at the same time and time them. So not only do the children get to do something fun and interactive with muscle memory, they get to learn their routes without parental guidance. So unfortunately, if an emergency happened within the home, such as a fire or an earthquake, they would know where to go without parental guidance. So it can be a fun little race where they get to race emergency routes to their meetup point. This can also be great for if you did need to evacuate your home and you had a meetup point outside of the home, such as maybe a mailbox a couple houses down or something of the sort. You could do your different emergency routes, and then you could practice getting to the meetup point. Week 3 is going to be assembling your emergency kit. And we recommend having 3 different kinds of emergency kits. 1 for sheltering in place at home, 2 for evacuating, and 1 for keeping in your vehicle. I think that when it comes to emergency kits, there are so many different ways to create them, and it does not have to be something that you read and then you hear, hey, I need an emergency kit, let me go drop X amount of dollars on it today. An emergency kit is something that can be built over time, piece by piece. And there's a lot of things that are great for an emergency kit that do not cost a lot of money. For example, I'm a huge fan of starting emergency kits at the dollar store. One of the reasons I say that is because one of my favorite things in emergency kits is socks. You don't need to buy expensive socks. You could buy everyone's socks for their emergency kits at the dollar store. You can buy emergency hygiene products such as deodorant, toothpaste, miniature first aid kits that you could build upon later on from your dollar store. It does not have to be this lucrative, expensive project that you jump into and immediately start pouring money into. I also believe that your evacuation kit and your vehicle kit can be the same bag. And the reason I say that is that if you are evacuating, you're taking your bag with you. You can always keep it in your vehicle, or if you have that bag that you bring to work with you, that can be kept in your vehicle as well. Emergency preparedness only works if people are able to follow through with it. And because of that, sometimes it is really beneficial to uncomplicate it. You know you the best, and you might know that you're not going to go on this lucrative, detailed design of your kit. And because of that, you might need to find a way to make it simpler. And if having 2 emergency kits instead of 3 makes it easier for you to do it instead of not doing it at all, do the 2. That way you are still prepared, and that is way better than not having an emergency kit at all. So what goes in your kit? Fairfax County, as a rule, recommends every household keeps 3 to 5 days worth of food, water, and supplies in their kits for each member of the household. It's important to understand that if you're having food and water, these things need to be rotated out, because even canned foods and bagged and bottled water do expire. It's funny to think that water bottles do expire, but what happens is sometimes the plastic can break down and go in the water, and no one wants to drink that. When it comes to foods, we love shelf-stable foods such as canned foods or foods that do not need to be heated up or kept at a certain temperature. If you are making sure that you have canned foods in your emergency kit, please include a can opener. That is a very common thing to be forgotten, and it sounds so simple, but when you're going through this long line of important things for your emergency kit, I completely understand how that can get overlooked. Things to consider. Your emergency kit is going to be as unique as you are and as unique as your familial organization and household is. And what I mean by that is you might take 2 families with 2 parents and 2 kids, so they have the same amount of adults and the same amount of children, but their emergency kits could be completely different. And the reason for that is the children could be different ages. A baby needs something very different from a child. A child needs something very different from a toddler. And one family could have a child with access and functional needs, and one family could have pets while the other doesn't have pets. Families are really unique, and because of that, their emergency kits should be just as unique as them. Week 4 for National Preparedness Month, our social media is going to be directed towards staying informed. There are lots of different ways that you can stay informed when it comes to emergency notifications and response. One of them being Fairfax Alerts, which is a wonderful free program that you can see the URL for at the bottom of the screen. Fairfax Alerts can be as involved or uninvolved as you want. And what I mean by that is you can set Fairfax Alerts to do emails and or text messages. You don't have to pick both. You can pick one or the other. You can also pick what sorts of things you get alerts for, whether it be traffic, weather, certain kinds of acts of violence. It can be individualized to the alerts that are most pertinent to you that you want to make sure that you hear about immediately. The other ways that you can stay informed is the Emergency Preparedness newsletter that comes out every month, listening to webinars like this, following us on social media, and staying up to date with your local, state, and federal news. Our emergency blog gets updated every month alongside our newsletter, which always has information catered towards the hazards that are more likely to happen at that time of year. For example, we're not going to have, heat awareness in January, and we're not going to have snow awareness in August. But we are going to do a lot of specialized things around holidays that come with different kinds of hazards. For example, one of the most common days for house fires is Thanksgiving. So because of that, our November newsletter might have extra time and extra space catered towards the risk of house fires, kitchen fires, and things of that accord. So, how do you get emergency information during an emergency? This is mostly typed out what we just spoke about, signing up for Fairfax alerts, checking out the Fairfax County emergency blogs, following us on social media, whether it be the @ReadyFairfax or the @Fairfax County, and checking status updates on the Fairfax County website. The other part of week 4, Get Involved, is consider using the 5 Steps to Neighborhood Preparedness Guide as a way for your neighborhood together to get more prepared and feel more ready for emergencies. It can be done in 5 easy steps. 1, define your area. So the area that you want to consider in your disaster emergency plan. That can be anything from an HOA, a homeowners association, to a community condominium, to whatever neighborhood works for you. It could be 1 apartment building, 2 apartment buildings. What works that you can organize with relative ease. 2, recruit leaders. So develop a team of leaders that can help build the plan and carry out emergency support activities when it comes to that. 3, scout out your area, get to know what you have, get to know what's around, and get to know what emergencies are common to your area. Not all areas see the same kind of emergencies. Some areas, even in the county, can be more prone to flooding than others. It's important to know what affects your individual area. 4, build your team. Find out who lives in your area. Talk to people. Find out if there are people that live in your neighborhood disaster planning area that maybe have medical experience or emergency response experience that might want to have extra positions in your neighborhood disaster planning guide. 5, plan your approach. Online, you will see that we have a template to help you with all this, and you can create a plan that outlines what your neighborhood will do before, during, and after a disaster. While we do have templates online that are free to fill out, I always like to make sure that people understand that if you fill out a plan online, unless you save it to your desktop, it will go away. It does not automatically save online. So if you fill out one of these PDFs, please make sure that you download it and save it. And do not fill it out online and then not save it and then close it, because then unfortunately it will disappear and you will have to start all over again. As you can see, we have a lot of different sections divided by preparedness, response, recovery, and mitigation, important contacts, and all parts of our community emergency response guide. So you can really go PDF by PDF and concentrate on the things that you want to spend the most time on during that time. Volunteer opportunities. There are tons of ways that people can choose to volunteer with Fairfax County. Under Ready Fairfax, we have the EM Volunteer Corps. We also are the government connection for the Fairfax County Citizen Corps. There's also CERT, the Community Emergency Response Team. If you have any sort of medical training, the Medical Reserve Corps might be for you. If you have fire training, the Fire Corps. If you have any religious training, the chaplains is a great way to get involved. And then we also have our partners at Volunteer Fairfax. Here's an example of CERT at its work, CERT doing its job. They play a huge part in outreach, in emergency response, and CERT does a lot of awesome hands-on practice. So I just thought these images were a really great thing to include and just show that our CERT volunteers really do a lot of hands-on things that we could not get done without them. Our EM Volunteer Corps does a lot of outreach with the citizens of Fairfax County, whether it be adults, elderly, or children. The EM Volunteer Corps is doing actually a lot of different things this weekend alongside CERT. I know that the Volunteer Corps will be at the Ready, Set, No event at Burke Festival, and I know there's a couple other things they'll be doing. The Volunteer Corps is fantastic because they work with all different sorts of age groups and really try to get messages out that are appropriate to the audience that they are talking to. Also, we are having a public training September 20th, the Be the Help Until the Help Arrives training. And this training is completely open to the public. Registration is required ahead of time, where we will be teaching Stop the Bleed. And during that time, the participants will be learning different ways to use tourniquets and different ways to stop bleeding if they ever came, unfortunately, into a scenario where there was some sort of trauma that happened around them. It's not something fun to talk about. It's not something fun to think about, but, these things do happen, and bleeding happens really, really fast. People can bleed out really, really fast. And as you can see on the screen, the average time for first responders to arrive is 7 to 10 minutes, or the average time to bleed out is 3 to 5 minutes. So the Stop the Bleed training can really help you save someone's life until EMTs, EMS get to the scene and they can take over. Again, this training is on September 20th. If you are interested in coming to this training, registration is up on the Ready Fairfax page, and we would be happy to have you. It is open completely to the public. These are the other upcoming events that we currently have. Right now, September 7th, the webinar. Tomorrow at 3 p.m. we have our AARP webinar. And then we will be at the Burke Center Festival for Ready, Set, No. We will be having the National Flood Insurance Program webinar in a week, where we will have people from the flood insurance program talking about the importance of that within Fairfax County. We will have our emergency preparedness workshop, and on September 17th we will also be representing DEMS and our emergency management volunteer group at Celebrate Communications. For those that do not know, Celebrate Communications is an event for outreach and community engagement with the deaf and hard of hearing communities, within Fairfax County. And as I stated before, September 20th is the Stop the Bleed training. It is at 6:30 p.m. So if you do work a 9-to-5 job, this would be after that. So I really hope that as many people as possible can join. If any of these events sound like something that suit your fancy and sound like something you would like to attend, www.fairfaxcounty.gov/emergency/readyfairfax, you will find this exact upcoming events section of the website, where each one will have a link where you'll be able to learn more information. Now we're going to move into Module 2. As I stated at the beginning of this webinar, this portion is about the If You See Something, Say Something campaign. This is a logo taken from the campaign, partnered with the Department of Homeland Security. September is National Preparedness Month, and you can share why you report suspicious activity using the hashtags #CSayDay and #WhyICSay on September 25th, as that is National CSay Day, but this is a concept that is going on throughout all of National Preparedness Month. So what is suspicious behavior? It kind of sounds like an open-ended question, so it makes complete sense that this is something that we would want to talk about, especially during National Preparedness Month. Suspicious behavior is anything that really makes, the hair stand on your arms. You want to trust your first instinct. And this can be anything from finding an unattended backpack or drawstring bag in a weird place, a car that is parked in a weird location with no one in it, someone asking questions about your building's operations or securities at a level beyond curiosity, and surveillance that could be considered going beyond casual or professional interests, such as repeat or prolonged observation. We want to stress that, When in doubt, communicate it, speak up, say something. I can say with full confidence that we would much rather you report something that could be an issue and then find out that it was not an issue whatsoever than someone not report it and then something unfortunately bad happen. So when in doubt, if something makes you feel a little funky, do not hesitate to report it. Do not hesitate. You're completely acceptable to call 911 if you think something is going on. Do not hesitate in that regard. To report suspicious behavior, if there is an emergency, call 911. To report suspicious activity in Virginia that you do not believe is a right-of-way emergency, you can call the Virginia Tips Line. And during that time, if you call the Tips Line, it's really important to know the who, what, when, where, and why. Who did you see? What did you see? When did you see it? Where did you occur? And why is it suspicious? Those 5 things sound really simple, but it can make a huge difference for our first responders that might have to go out and figure out exactly what is going on. But again, when in doubt, please do not hesitate to report it or call 911. First responders would much rather find out that this was not a scenario that needs to be intervened than, unfortunately, the situation not get reported and then something bad happen. Now we move on into our last module, Module 3, which is the 2022 Emergency Preparedness Survey. Up on the screen, you will see the QR code for the survey. To use this QR code, you would open up the camera on your phone or other mobile device, and you would aim it at it, and then it should give you a link on your screen that you can click and access. What this survey is a way for Fairfax County to have a better understanding of the culture of personal disaster preparedness and resilience of its citizens throughout Fairfax County. This is a very short survey. I believe it is max 10 questions. I could be off by a number or two on that one, but it is a very short, very easy survey to fill out, and we would really, really appreciate if anyone that is seeing this webinar right now could open up their camera and scan the QR code and take the survey. I can say with the utmost certainty that we are taking these results of this survey very seriously to understand the different levels of preparedness throughout Fairfax County and the different comfortability levels that Fairfax County residents might have with emergency preparedness. Now, to kind of finish up, I apologize that it got a little cut off, but join us in October for a webinar on cybersecurity from 2 very special guests that we had last year. And I don't want to say their names on here because I want everyone to build a suspense, but we are going to spend a lot of time on cybersecurity and cybersecurity awareness in October, which is really important to go over way before the holiday season comes out because, you know, cybersecurity and online shopping just go together like peanut butter and jelly. That is about all I have for tonight. So thank you for everyone that took the time to attend. If you have any questions that you did not feel comfortable posting in the chat or want to say it on a more private manner, feel free to either call or email at the information that you were seeing on the screen. My name is Mariah Katayev, and if you send it to the DEMS outreach email box, I promise it will get directed to me or another person on our outreach team. That number is to our DEMS office, but phone calls get directed to the portion of the office that needs to get to, so do not worry about that. So again, thank you everyone for being here. Happy National Preparedness Month. I hope everyone had a great long Labor Day weekend, and we'll see you next month.